projections. I told you about US protectionism in the 1930s. The goal was to protect American industries, but the result was the opposite. The protectionism worsened the Great Depression and it added to the global economic crisis. So the precedent is quite clear.
Whoa. Now, now that's a terrible way to frame how tariffs work. And let's be quite honest. In the 1930s, it was the Fed not out wanting to add to the money supply that we desperately needed. And they kind of held out on us and watched the economy crash.
Yep.
Now, to sit there and blame the 1930s depression all on tariffs is like factually incorrect.
It's absolutely incorrect. They're talking about I'm trying to remember the name of it. Wade. Oh man,
the Smooth Hawley, I think, something like that.
Yeah. But the Hawley whatever was after the 1928-1929 market crash, where we were already in deep shit. They actually started doing taxes on citizens the very first time in 1912, which way earlier predates that. It was more than a decade of the citizens being taxed by the government before any of that even happened.
But I would say
to goodness, if we could incorporate the price of our taxes into the price that we pay and not have income taxes, the actual net good for the economy, just psychologically on spending power and all that fun stuff, you won't have to worry about saving money for taxes.
No,
you won't
guys,
have to.
I kind of have a clear point to make on this one when I say that Smooth Hawley. Yeah. Now, all this does is prove that tariffs is always going to go against the seller. And back in the 1930s, who were we? We were a seller. We weren't such a big consumer market like today.
Yep.
So tariffs is going to work the same way they did back in the day, except it's going back on the foreign countries, because now you guys are the seller. And as tariffs always been, they always hurt the seller. So that's why they're crying.
The net effect.
In the 1930s.
The net effect on countries as entities is always on the seller. You should rephrase that, because you cannot get around the fact that it is going to make something more expensive. Like that's what's going to happen, but it's going to drive demand for that something down.
But here's the thing, though. If we're worried about, but when it comes to tariffs, it's always been negative on the seller.
Yes. In the grand scheme of things.
Yep. And in the grand scheme of things. And that's what all the 1930s kind of proved to me. It didn't really mark it as, tariffs is the whole reason why our market crashed. Like, no. I'm gonna be real with you.
Yeah. And it is bad for both the seller and the buyer.
Mm-hmm.
But the specific point that we have to address is the fact that they have tariffs on us.
Yep.
Just didn't have tariffs on them.
All we're doing is going from a point in which, say, they have 15. I don't know the exact
tariff. Hold on, guys.
And
I do need to clear something up for the chat. We do understand that tariffs are paid at the importer, paid at customs by the importer, which means that's the American company bringing it in. What we're saying is that here's what you guys fail to realize, that these suppliers will cut their prices so they can go ahead and get through with the tariff, or they can go ahead and keep that business with the importer. Because even if it's suppliers ain't the end all be all.
Right. Even if it's not completely cutting them so that the American consumer does not see any of the effects of the tariffs, and they are still going to eat a large portion of them. And it's going to eat into their profit margins, and it's going to start making them look for alternatives. For example, that's why it's so high on wood, because that's something that we can do in the United States. It's real easy to do, so why not just do it here?
Where the niche market that I'm in, which is watch repair, most fine watches are Swiss made, which is very niche. So,
and guys, and people are going to argue about their business margins. I mean, when did liberals start caring about rich people margins? Like, when they talk about profit margins and how it's like 3%, Walmart's 3% was like what, like $14 billion or so. And we're talking about the liberals, right? The liberals who don't believe that there should be no billionaires. When did you start caring about corporate profits? I just want to know.
Right.
But all right, you guys can go back. What were you guys saying?
Well, not just to add on to that, here's the thing. The prices can only go up so much before people stop buying things. That's the other aspect of supply and demand.
Yeah.
If there's a large supply and no demand, what does that tell you? What I come on, we learned this in 3rd grade.
I'm really not worried about a 39% tariff, and a huge reason why is because how many watchmakers have you ever even heard of in your life?
Now, guys, I'm not gonna lie though. Here's the thing: this ain't the first time, and this is where I am fearful of what went down in 1930s. This isn't the first time that the Fed held economic prosperity by the balls. Like, let's be real. Like, it's not the first time. They did it in the 1930s, and it kind of seems like they're doing it now.
We're due for a major market correction and a reevaluation of what we're actually worth. We are due for that. So that is coming, and they've been trying to kick it down the road and kick it down the road. It's coming. Whether it happens on a Democrat or a Republican's watch, that's to be said. And I'll be the first one to say it. You know, if it happens under a Democrat, it's not necessarily the Democrat's fault.
Well,
it's the policy of the United States for as long as we've had these policies.
Let's face it, if it happens during a Republican, they'll fake the numbers and tell
absolutely, yeah.
All right, let's keep it going.
Protectionism does not help, which is why the world embarked on a free trade market crusade. The US actually led this crusade. They created the pillars of the current trade system. Yet Trump calls it unfair. And don't get me wrong, the free trade regime is not perfect. It certainly is not for developing and underdeveloped countries. But it's always better than protectionism. You don't have...
Like India practice protectionism by having high tariffs on everybody across the board?
Right.
So y'all could do it, but we can't do it. Okay.
Right. We feel bad for us because it's happening to us, but ignore the fact that it's been happening to you guys for as long as it's been. Like I said, all that's happening is we're going from a position of a net payment of 15% tariffs to them to now they're at a net payment of 15% tariffs. Or sorry, we have a net 15% tariff against them on top of whatever they give.
All right.
Than protectionism. You don't have to be an economist to know that. You just need some common sense. Now look at the projections. Bloomberg is expecting a massive hit to the global economy, almost $2 trillion by 2027. That's how much the global economy stands to lose.
By what? Stop sucking off us? Like, yeah, I can see that.
Another projection has come from the OECD. That's the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. They are expecting 3.1% global GDP growth in 2025. That's 0.1% down from last year and 0.2% less than the initial projection. The World Trade Organization also has a projection. They expected global GDP to grow by 2.8% in 2025, but now they have cut it to
so wild. So pretty much you are all depending on the consumerism of Americans to get y'all through, to grow y'all markets. Y'all are depending on us, not all that. That's all this proves. So it's kind of crazy how all these countries was talking so proud and against us. And I'm like, all you guys are doing is exposing how much you needed us.
Yep.
0.2%. So the general consensus is clear. Trump's tariffs will shrink the global economy.
I mean, yeah, it wouldn't have shrunk the global economy if y'all didn't depend on us so much for consuming our products.
Now, I know 0.1 or 0.4% seems like a small number, but remember, we're talking about the global economy. It's more than $100 trillion in size. So even minor changes have big impacts. Thousands of job losses, major supply chain disruptions, a plunging stock market, and inflation.
Trump didn't run on a global economy. He didn't run on a global economy. He ran on an American economy.
Yep.
Exactly. And I mean, that's what they don't understand. Now, here's the thing. Like I said, this is all the numbers she's reporting is all coming from these guys pretty much having a fair trade deal with us. Now that you're pretty much not leeching off the American consumer, now you're going like, well, this is going to reflect the globe and all this good stuff. Yes, I know. But here's the sad part about it. You still need us to buy y'all products. Y'all still in the same position, but you just got to give us a better deal.
Here's the bottom line. The bottom line is we have money. We like to buy your stuff. We just want you to buy our stuff too.
So that we can afford to buy your stuff.
I mean, that's what it is. Like, look, we let y'all into our market, let us into yours. It is what it is. Like, I don't understand why y'all gotta
That's
cry
what
and complain
free.
about it.
That's the definition of free trade. Everybody that keeps fucking bitching about Trump getting rid of free trade, he's not getting rid of free trade. He's getting rid of lopsided trade agreements for companies that or countries that do not do anything for us. Everybody that's bitching about these trade agreements are countries that we have built up over the last 40, 50, 60 years. Now all we're
Yeah.
doing is capitalizing on our investment in those countries.
And China.
War
But
II,
bro,
we had to
all
ship
these countries
a
can
whole bunch.
literally blame their success on us. Like, let's be real.
Yep.
Yeah, China after World War II, we had to ship them a whole bunch of flour so they could even eat. And at that point,
All right, hold on, man. Fix your thing real
Fix your
quick.
mic. You sound like a
Until then-
robot.
Yeah, we'll move on.
Inflation, let's look at that next. American consumers will face the worst of it. In June, prices rose by 2.6% in the US. That was up from 2.4% in May. It was the steepest increase in 4 months. So clearly, American consumers have started to feel the pinch. But this is just the start. Economists expect the pain to get worse, and I'll tell you why. Most American importers are bracing for these tariffs. So they have stockpiled a lot of goods. Basically, they imported extra before the tariffs kicked in. But that stockpile will not last forever. It will run out in the coming weeks, and when it does, American businesses will have to import again. And those imports will be a lot more expensive. So expect a bumpy ride for the global economy. Now let's look at specific companies and industries. The tariffs have shaken up Apple. Their business model was built on offshore production. But now there is uncertainty. Do they still make in China? Do they shift to India? Do they go to Vietnam? There is no clarity on what they should be doing. At the same time, the tariffs are
It's
biting.
actually this
Apple-
very, very clear on what they should be doing, what they should have done anyway. They're an American company. They should,
Be building in
reinvest what they
America.
make in America. Yeah.
And stop giving out that false propaganda that an iPhone is going to cost $2,300. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Bullshit.
that's that
Get-
corporate elite bullshit. That's just like, it's crazy how Dems fall for it. I'm like, y'all really fell for that. That's their excuse, so they don't got to give you guys jobs. You know that, right?
That's all their excuses. They had no problem investing trillions of dollars into China so that Chinese kids could be smarter and make their products. They had no problem with any of that. They could have very easily done the same exact thing in America, done the same investments in the same tech trade schools that they did over there with Foxconn and with everybody else that they built up over there, and they
Yeah.
could have done it here, and that's what they should have done to begin with. I don't feel sorry for Apple. I'm talking on an iPhone. I don't feel sorry for a company that sells products for $1,500 when it costs them a couple $100 to make. I don't.
I mean, and that's the thing, though. All they're doing is protecting their profit margin, and I mean, here's the thing.
And you're
though.
buying that shit. You
You're
liberals
buying
that
it. Here's the thing, though. You think that they're gonna raise their prices to that phenomenal price just so Samsung can eat up the market?
exactly.
Like, perish the thought.
says the tariffs cost them $800 million in the last quarter. They're expecting a hit of $1 billion in the next quarter. That's clearly bad news for Apple. Also, look at auto giants. Ford is bracing for a $2 billion hit in 2025. Stellantis is also reporting a $1.9 billion hit. In fact, Ford posted its first quarterly loss in 2 years, all thanks to Trump's tariffs. And this has a knock-on effect.
Hold
When
on.
companies look
Hold on. I wanna fact check that real quick because I've owned Ford stock before. Can we go look at it's I think their ticker is F. Look at their like last 2 years because I'm pretty sure they've posted losses within the last 2 years.
Let's see here. Wait, hold on. You think in the last 2 years?
Yeah, she said it was the first loss in 2 years.
What are you want me to go look up their financial
Ford.
report?
Yeah, in the background, you can keep the video playing, but I want you to look that up.
Gotcha.
lose money, they cut back. They will shelve expansion plans, they will fire people, they will cut back on output, and all of this will drag the overall GDP. And it's not like Trump's team does not know this. His Treasury Secretary has worked in top hedge fund companies. His Commerce Secretary was a billionaire Wall Street CEO. These people know that free trade works. They know how tariffs will impact the economy. They're just choosing not to see it. If America wants to plunge into a recession, go ahead. But don't drag us with you.
I mean, y'all buy, bro. You need us to buy y'all products. You guys have no choice. You guys put yourselves in this position to be drug into it. Don't cry about it now. I mean, if y'all establish more fair trade conditions instead of letting these companies overly favor y'all while leaving out Americans, yeah, if that wasn't the case, we wouldn't be here. But
I'd like
Yeah.
to say something for the record, because Tesla
Okay.
and Ford's earnings just came out. Tesla did not post a loss, and you know what Ford blamed their loss on?
What?
Driven by the combination of factors include $800 million in tariff-related costs, increased recall expenses, and special charges related to EV program cancellation, according to
Ooh.
Automotive News. So, who was the subsidy really helping out?
Ooh. Actually, damn, that makes sense though. Since they cut off the EV, it's like, yo, everybody kill the EV line, kill the EV production. Why are we making EV cars? There's really no benefit.
There's only one company that's doing it because they want to.
Well, because the government was giving them money to.
Exactly.
The government was taking that money from the taxpayers.
And I hate to say it, like I'm a big person that believes in free market and not manipulating the market, but everybody had the same access to these EV rebates. Everybody had the same access to these subsidies. Everybody had the same opportunity and the same future forecast to say, oh, Tesla's actually taken off. Maybe we might want to compete with them. Well, they didn't compete with them, and now they're getting left in the dust, and now the government's not bailing them out anymore.
And Libs, I want y'all to hear me out on this argument of, do y'all really care about these billionaires, profits and margin and all that, to the point where you're going to make arguments for them? Doesn't that kind of go along with the fact that they've kind of been abusing the American economy while not giving jobs or not giving education programs to us, but the foreigners that they could pay less?
Who?
These
Apple's the biggest
Apple's the biggest offender. We got Dell. Walmart's also pretty bad too.
I think if they stopped giving so many subsidies or made it so easy for companies to outsource, then American people, which we're number 3 for population in the world, out of countries, it goes either India or China are number 1 for population by a long shot.
Yep.
And way down on the list is number 3, America, but we're way ahead of everybody else. Like, I don't know, Mexico has like 138 million. We're at 340 million.